Pokemon Saiph does a lot of interesting things that... What the fuck is that? Jesus Christ, that is ugly. That cannot be what you play the game with, right? Jesus Christ. Yo, this game better be some fire or that will not be justified. Pokemon Saiph is a game that is, as far as I know, not very popular. I had seen it around at some places, but it is not one of the premier ROM hacks. After playing this game though, I found out that there are some pretty good reasons for that being the case. This game is not that bad at first sight. There are Pokemon from generation 1 through 6, the graphics are absolutely beautiful and the game tries to have a nice level curve. The story is pretty intriguing and does go pretty deep later on in the game. If you see all these things, you would think you have a pretty good game at hand. Then there comes the negative though, and sadly, the negatives of Pokemon Saiph are really negative. Hello everybody and welcome to the review of Pokemon Saiph. This game is an interesting one, so let's go and investigate. Pokemon Saiph has actually got a quite extensive story to it that was based on the game Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Elmia. I thought they did a pretty good job on putting this story together and it was very nice to play through, although the biggest part of it does come at a later part in the game. The story starts off pretty flat, just having your normal bad guys in the game be, well, bad guys and stealing stuff or going after a legendary Pokemon. Later on though, you actually find out a bit of backstory about your friends and rivals, and you actually go to some pretty cool spots and find out a lot about the evil teams as well as your companions. There are a good amount of cutscenes in the game, which I always find to be nice, as I feel like they give some nice depth to the story. The cutscenes themselves are nothing extremely special, but they are good enough to involve you in the story and get you to follow along. Something that does not interest me personally, but could still be a put-off for a lot of people, is that the post-game of this hack is very lacking. Now, I know a lot of hacks don't even have any kind of post-game, but in this case, it's still pretty bad, because the game kind of slapped me in the face, letting me see a part of Hoenn being on the map, but later on not doing anything special with it. Yeah, I got very excited when I saw Hoenn being part of the town map in this game, but I was pretty bummed out when I found out it was only for catching legendary Pokemon in the post-game, as I would really appreciate a little Hoenn being present as an explorable part of the game, or even a part of the story. So yeah, the story of Pokemon Saiph dominates a large part of the mid to late section of this game and did eventually manage to really intrigue and interest me, although it was nothing super special that would just make me fall out of my chair. The difficulty of this game got me a bit worried, but it was pretty decent in the end. The difficulty pace of this game is weird. You can do the first 7 gym leaders immediately after each other without honestly anything really stopping you, besides some roadblocks and a bit of story, which basically makes it so you are barely at level 30 when you are at the 7th gym leader. This is even worse than in a lot of the mainstream games, where your Pokemon are around level 40 or higher when you fight the 7th gym leader, and this makes for some awkward pacing. With all of this said though, the game manages to make a lot of it up in the final parts of the playthrough, as I honestly really enjoyed the part between the 7th gym and the end of the game, because the story gets really intense and the pacing gets a lot better. You also start to notice here that there is actually some thought put into the Pokemon of the gym leaders, rivals and evil team leaders, as you find out that more and more of them have some custom moves applied to them, making them a bit harder and making you think a bit more about your moves. Sadly though, the game also makes a habit out of planting 5 million grunts and trainers on your routes, making it a bit tiring to go through them sometimes, and I find this to be a pretty bad way to ensue difficulty in general. Overall, the beginning of this game is a bit uninteresting when it comes to the challenge you get, but it does get a lot better later on. If you are looking for a ROM hack purely because you are wanting a challenge though, Pokemon Saiph is not the game I would recommend. We are gonna keep it positive because the graphics of this game were honestly super good. I was actually very impressed with the visuals of this game. There were a lot of times where I walked into a new area, may it be a city, route, cave or gym, and I really felt like there was some effort and thought put into it. It's not even that the areas are very extravagantly designed or are made with a lot of care and love, it's just that everything seems to fit and the areas look very clean while still keeping a nice vibe in general. There were a lot of visual errors in the game though, but I will get to that later on the polished section of this review. About the music, it's nothing special. The game basically imported a bunch of songs from other regions into this game, mostly Pokemon Black and White too, and just slapped them on the routes, the gyms, and basically everything in the game. It's not much special, but it is very much acceptable, as I obviously don't expect every single ROM hack to have some crazy kind of custom music added to it, although it does always help. The graphics and music in this game were actually a big positive, which kept me pretty interested in this game throughout. Pretty interesting how things like graphics and music can make such a big difference, as some other aspects of the game are absolute shit, isn't it? So, the polish of this game. So far in the review, this game could be considered decent to even pretty good, but that took a bit of a nosedive when I really started feeling this game out, because I have a lot of things to say here. I don't want this segment to just be me hating on the polish of this game, but as far as I am concerned, this game was simply unpolished. Starting off with the visual errors. There were honestly so many unstable visuals in this game that it got to the point of being really annoying at times. I am pretty flexible with a couple of visual errors in ROM hacks sometimes, as I understand that they are very hard to create and even harder to perfect, but having this many visual errors in the game honestly diminished my experience with the game, and it got really annoying to me. Furthermore, you can just kind of feel that this game was not looked at or tested very properly. To give some examples, the Pokédex barely functions at all. When you're in a cave, you are in the top left corner of the map. Pokemon don't evolve at the correct level or you run into invisible walls. And then the worst thing, at least in my experience, the game soft-locked me 2 times. This honestly caused me to not have a lot of trust left in the game and led me to saving about every 3 minutes, which was a bother for me and could definitely turn some people off. Now, it may sound here like I'm nitpicking, and if I would be complaining this much about a little thing not working properly, I would agree with you. But it's the big picture here. Having this many tiny things not working properly simply ends up taking a lot of the fun away from me, as my experience is constantly intervened by little lazy incomplete things that just bother me to no end. Now, even with all of that said, this did not destroy the game for me. I still had a pretty good time, and there are a lot of redeeming qualities in this game as discussed earlier in the review. I did ultimately not find this game to be unplayable, and I did finish it fully. This is just a warning, although may it be a big one, that you will encounter some, if not all of these things mentioned when you're playing this game. I would still like to take a second and talk about the features of this game, because even though they were not very polished, like the rest of this game, they were still present and did impress me at times. Like most hacks these days, this game has a physical special split, a very type included, the repel system from Gen 5 and upwards, and reusable TMs. The game also added a bunch of features themselves, which is great, but some of the features were also pretty lacking. For example, the HM for cut was made a steel type move, which was really nice, and the game added some quests as well, which were very nice in concept, but there were very few of them, and one of them soft locked my game. There were also a bunch of times where your character was thinking something, which I thought was a pretty nice concept. Sadly, there were also some very lacking features. As I said in the polish section as well, the Pokédex barely functions in this game, and there is also no way to evolve Pokemon that would have to be traded to get to their final form, which is a bit of a bummer if things like fairy types and reusable TMs are available. The game also used a lot of ideas and graphics from other generations, which I found to be a pretty cool touch, and I liked how the game had a bit of cross-section with Gen 4 at a later point in the story. Overall, the features in this game are pretty good, but nothing to really write home about, because a lot of them were also pretty lacking. Pokemon Saiph has got a lot of positives going for it, but I could sadly not look past the flaws this game presented. If it was not for this game barely having any polish at all, I would probably find this to be a good game worth playing. But as it stands right now, I cannot give this game more than a 5.5 out of 10, as it does not give me the quality I desire out of a good ROM hack. Alright, that was it. Thank you all so much for watching this review. I hope it was helpful to you. If you like this review, please make sure to leave a like on this video and also leave a comment telling me what I did right or what I could improve upon or what ROM hack I should play next. I am also live on YouTube now a lot, so if you just subscribe to the channel, you will know when I'm live as well, and I will be playing the ROM hacks I review on here on my YouTube channel, so come by and say hi. I always appreciate that. Alright, that is pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching this review and have a great day.